Welcome to Melt University. This series will help you build your brand, inform you on a variety of career paths, and introduce you to top executives in sports and marketing. Now, here's your host, the president and CEO of Melt, one of the largest independent sports and event marketing agencies in the country, Vince Thompson.
Welcome back, students. Virtual Melt University. We are continuing to roll into the first semester of 2021, and hopefully we've got some football being played right now, some college baseball being played. We got March Madness coming up. A lot of fun things that are coming up on our horizon. We do appreciate all of your comments and feedback. We've had some very special guests, and we have a very great and special guest today, Erin Levzow, who is the Vice President of Marketing and Digital Technology for Del Taco Restaurants, one of my favorites restaurants, and very innovative. We're going to talk about that innovation that she's leading on behalf of Del Taco today, and how those future careers may be impacted by the evolution of Del Taco during post-COVID. Also got a lot of great background with the emergence of wagering and legal wagering with MGM and Palms. Obviously, we've talked a lot about where those future careers are as online wagering continues to sweep the country. She had a stint at Wingstop, one of our former clients, and we love Wingstop as well. So, Erin, welcome to Virtual Melt University.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
We really appreciate it, and our interaction communication is a testament to the things that we talk about with all of our students at Melt U. I saw Erin quoted in an article. I reached out to her via LinkedIn, was able to find her email through these tools that we talked. So I took some time to send a specially crafted email, and she was kind enough to respond. So here we are today. So Erin, welcome, a graduate of Illinois State and a master's from Cornell. But before we dive into a lot of things that you've done in the future that you see it, we always sort of like to throw it back to passion. And we like to throw it back to the passion of, how, whether it was junior high or a child or your parents or a mentor or high school, but where did you first find your passion for business, and how did that lead you to where you are today?
Great question. So passion, I'm passionate about everything I do, but doing marketing tech, any of the sorts, digital marketing, I didn't grow into that passion until I was out of college. My passion actually was theater growing up, and I fell in love with theater in 8th grade and just decided that's what I was going to do for the rest of my life. So my degree from Illinois State is in theater, acting, directing, arts management. Wow. I love all aspects of it, and I think what it taught me was that you have to understand what everybody else is doing in order to do your best work, right? You have to understand where the people are on the stage, what lighting is going to hit you when, what the stage design looks like, and all of those pieces have to come together for a flawless presentation or performance. And I think that's what I still take into my career now, but it wasn't until after college when I had moved to Vegas thinking I was going to be an aspiring actress, and fell into working in theater, loved it, and I was at Bally's Paris Rio at the time, and then took a training course for all management, directors, vice presidents, and at the end of the course, they said, you would be a great trainer, which is like being on stage, right? And I said, I would love to be a trainer and work in HR. So I joined that. When the recession hit, they eliminated all training staff. They didn't, you don't need trainers if you're not hiring. And I was very blessed that Caesars said, well, what do you want to do? We think you're a great employee. We can help find a spot for you. And I was at the point where I had just bought a house and thought, I'm not going to be able to pay my bills. And I was like, I will do anything. I will clean rooms if I have to. And they said, "What do you know about internet marketing?" Right? Because back then it was internet. It wasn't digital. It wasn't interactive.
Right,
It was just internet.
right, right,
And I said, "Well, I have the Facebook." But I didn't know anything.
right.
Didn't know anything at all. But I needed a job. And I was blessed that they gave me a job. I started at the bottom and worked my way up. And while I was doing that, I learned a passion for it. I learned that I loved what I was doing. It was a skill. Um, and it was something that my brain was able to process. And it turns out I was pretty good at it. So I just kept doing it. And each time you don't know what you don't know. So you think, well, I've done this, so I know everything about doing this. No. Mm-mm. And the great thing about digital is it's changing all the time. Technology
Right.
is changing all the time. So it keeps you moving. And I just loved learning about it and growing with it. And it's something that I was very passionate about. But I think a lot of the same passions that made me passionate in theater, I see them play out in what I do now as well.
Well, you hit on a couple of things that we talk a lot about to our students, and one thing, Aaron, is that prior to the pandemic, it was clearly what I will call a seller's market for talent. Like and my pet peeve was that kids would get in and they would have an expectation they'd be CEO overnight, and if they didn't get that
Mm-hmm.
way, they would job hop, and now all of a sudden, like overnight, I mean, I literally had an incident, last week where a potential employee had really been wanting to go to work for many months, and we finally started seeing some green shoots in business, and we were starting to hire again. And we make the offer, and literally the first thing out of the chute is they want to start negotiating terms of everything. And I'm like, you got to be kidding me. Like we've had millions of jobs. I've laid off hundreds of people. I'm finally starting to open up again, and it's already in this position.
Mm-hmm.
And so you hit on a couple things. You were willing to be flexible, and you were willing to do anything that it took to get in there and then continue to climb. And to the students, to their defense, I mean, they've never been in this tumble cycle like they're in now. But I still do it as a CEO. Like, you do what you got to do, right?
Yep, absolutely. I think you make a solid point there, which is you. Same with theater. You have to know all the different workings and all the different going ons in order to do your job really, really well. And I
Right.
think the same goes for any career you're in. You need to understand what your employees do in order to have an appreciation for what they've done, right?
Hmm.
And by default, that means I think one of the reasons I do well now is because I had to work my way up, right? I didn't jump to the top of the ladder. I had to start at the bottom and go up. Now, I do think that I've had a lot of different employees, and that idea of, like you said, coming out of school and thinking, I'm going to negotiate this. And it's what they've been told, right? Someone's filled their heads with
That's
this idea that,
exactly what this person said.
yeah, this is what your average salary is supposed to be. And here are all the things you can negotiate. And what they probably should have been taught was, this is all the things you can negotiate once you've been there a while, or once you've done that and once you've proven yourself, because
Yes.
I will take eagerness and willingness and this go-getter attitude over experience any day. Any day.
Bingo.
So I happily have hired a lot of just starting out folks. But if someone comes to me and their first out of the gate thing is, well, I'd like to negotiate my pay, and I'm like, I'm paying you extremely fairly for this position, and I'm paying you your benefits are extremely fair, but you want to talk about what if you can take the next 3 weeks off a month after you start? No, we're probably not gonna get along real well.
I think you and I may be the same person because I'm just the same way. And by the way, I mean, I get it and all those types of things, but again, sometimes step back and go, hey, let me think through, you know. What's going on in the environment right now, and but I also want to unpack one thing. So you literally just made the jump and moved out to Vegas sight unseen, right?
Yes.
So, what did those around you think about that dive into the deep end?
Um, I will tell you, I tried to apply for jobs in Vegas while living in Illinois, which is where I grew up, and
Right.
nobody wanted to give you the time of day if you
Right.
didn't
Right.
have a
Right.
local address or weren't out there. So I finally decided to take the leap now or applied for jobs on the West Coast. And I had
Right.
taken the leap. My parents had a bet that in 6 weeks I'd come crawling home.
Oh.
And I didn't know this right away. I didn't know this until very, very, very much later when I was doing great. But they said, okay, good luck, right? And I was able to get an apartment in like the worst area of town, $600 apartment. I had $800 total when I went out there.
Oh my
$600
God.
apartment for 2 months. They'd found a dead body in the dumpster, so I got an extra month
Wow.
free. And
I love that.
yeah, got to negotiate, right? And
Right.
then I bought $100 mattress off of the back of this guy's truck. I cried a lot because I was like, I don't know what I'm doing.
Right.
And then I ate Jack in the Box until I could find a job. And I mean, my
God.
first job honestly was a $10 an hour
Yeah.
receptionist because I was like, all right, I'll take this job while I look for another job. And
Mhm.
I knew it wasn't what I wasn't going to be a psychologist assistant for the rest of my life, but it paid me
Right.
and it paid
Yep.
me and gave me a computer to use while I looked for the next job.
Bingo. It got you a little gas in the tank, and
Exactly.
and it was all part of the plan. So from you still have, obviously you started with Caesars and MGM and Palms. We talk a lot about you think about just casinos now, but the online sports wagering is, the Supreme Court cleared it, and it's sweeping across the states, and it is really changing viewer and fan engagement. What's happening, we're going to talk about this in a minute, as it relates to Del Taco, and how it's viewing the in-home consumption of picking up Del Taco, sitting at home with your friends or your family, or they're in one place and you're in another. But there are going to be massive careers in the online wagering segment, because one thing that we hear about now from experts like yourself is that you don't necessarily have to have a marketing degree now to be in marketing or sports marketing, because it's data, it's stats, it's technology, it's coding, it's content. I mean, to your point, look at your background. I mean, so wouldn't you say that there's going to be a lot of careers where you traditionally wouldn't think they would be in, quote unquote, the wagering side?
Yeah, I think that's absolutely right. I think that that's the same as all of these careers, right? Nobody was trained in
Mhm.
internet marketing before internet marketing became a thing. They just all of a sudden went, we need to probably put some marketing resources behind this. And then they quickly figured out that a traditional mindset and a digital mindset are very different people. So they
Right.
had to go find people that they didn't know that you don't know.
Mhm.
So I think you're spot on that you're not necessarily going to need to have a background in one or the other in order to jump right in, because there are going to be plenty of jobs in that space.
Well, and we and again, I always say this all the time, is that everybody in digital and social marketing was born on the same day. So it's not like, some big fancy agency or person who went to Harvard has a lock on this knowledge. And so that's one thing that we're pushing our students on, is to, hey, think kind of outside the box. And I'm going to get to that in just a minute. But I read an article about Del Taco last week, and it was your CEO, Mr. Capasolas, identified Georgia as a market with active emerging opportunity. A key aspect of the change's forthcoming growth will be its new Fresh Flex model. So a new Del Taco will take up less than 1,200 square feet and offer drive-through service only. No dining room, no in store, at all. And I also read it was pretty amazing. 80%, 86% of your chain sales were off premise during in 19, and 71% at drive-throughs. During pandemic, that's gone to 86%. So there's going to be amazing careers and career opportunities based on this new COVID model in fast food, quick serve, fast casual, that maybe our students really haven't thought about, right?
Yeah, and I think that it's not just QSR and fast casual, it's all aspects, right? So this
Bingo.
idea that marketing used to be really important, but now it's like on steroids important as it relates to digital. Because before someone would tell me, well, once they walk in the store, here's the message they're going to see. You don't have that luxury anymore. Now you have to tell your entire story before they even come to you. They have to decide to come to you, and they have to come, and they leave, and they will have never seen any of your marketing on premise. So whether you're talking about a grocery store, like
Bingo.
Walmart pickup or any of those, like I never have to walk into a Walmart again if I don't want to, but I can
Bingo.
drive up there and they can put the food in my car and I can leave. So the marketing has to be done only digitally. You don't have any opportunity unless you stick something in my bag to speak to me where you traditionally would have.
Isn't that crazy? But weren't these careers were this shift was coming prior to the pandemic. This just has accelerated the shift. But so if you're a college student, if Erin was back in college, and we always say the college was the ultimate professional laboratory, what and where should some of these kids, what should they be doing now to prep themselves to apply for an internship or a job with Erin and Del Taco? Where are these opportunities? Because as we're seeing, kids are getting great academic educations within the walls, or the virtual learning has kind of obviously, created some obstacles and barriers. But in your opinion, what are you looking for?
It's eagerness, it's willingness to learn, and then being prepped and ready. So, like, have you taken certifications, like your Google certification? Have you already done your HubSpot certification, so that like you're already at the top of your game, right? What have you done to better yourself? And that's for all my employees. Is I'll ask them, like, what's your ongoing growth look like, personally and professionally? But I think that's really important. And then I'll tell you, at my last position, I had interviewed a bunch of interns, and we had a summer internship open. And the gentleman that got it, I don't know if he was even studying digital marketing. I think he was studying marketing, maybe PR. He came in, he came dressed well, right? So he didn't show up, because you'd be surprised how many kids showed up in my office.
Oh, no, I won't.
Shirts and shorts. He showed up on time, also seems to be an issue for some. He sat there, he answered my questions. If he did not know an answer, he did not try and pretend like he knew the answer, which is like, you're not going to have all the answers, and that's okay. And it's okay to go, you know what? That's a really good question. I'm not sure that I know the answer to that, but let me research it and follow up with you if you don't mind. And that's way better than let me guess at an answer, because then it looks like you might be slightly arrogant, right? And then he sent a well-crafted, thoughtful thank you note that wasn't, thank you for your time, I'm looking forward to working with you. It was thoughtful to what we had discussed during the process. I'll tell you, I don't do long interviews. My interviews are usually 20 minutes or less, because that's really all you need to decide, hey, if you're going to be the right position. And then come with questions. Come with questions showing that you researched what you're interviewing for. Because if you don't do that, then how do I know that you know what you're talking about as it relates to my company, right? Don't say, do not come with your generic questions of like, what's the average day look like? Nope. I don't want to answer that question. I want to answer questions like, hey, I read this article, or I saw this about the company, and would that be something I'd be able to interact with when I'm here? Things like that show that you're passionate about it.
Well, I think you've been eavesdropping on all of my conversations, because you just hit everything that I say. First impressions, particularly in a virtual environment, mean everything now. This is an audition and a process, not an application. I mean, Erin, you would be shocked we have a generic website called Careers at Melt ATL. And I get those emails, but it'll say, to whom it may concern, attaches my resume, I need to make X amount of dollars. I don't even look at the resume. I mean, it could be the Pope. And I go, I'm easy to find on the internet. In the old days, I had to go to the library and look at resource guides, encyclopedias, yellow pages, and write notes just to get my resume in front of people. And now they possess that in the palm of their hand. They're communicating those intangible things. To your point, you've made up your mind because first impressions, and they're showing you what type of employee they're going to be prepared. They've researched you. They're going to try to make an emotional connection, like, hey, I would love to hear about your time in Vegas. That's pretty fascinating. And one thing that I want you to address, I believe a new litmus, particularly new litmus that I've developed for my process and interviews and all that, is first question is, what did you do to improve yourself or others during COVID? Did you binge watch? Did you binge drink? Did you binge game? Or did you learn a new skill, learn a new trait, reposition your brand on social media? Did you translate what you learned into helping a fellow human being during a time of distress and those types of things? Don't you think that's going to be the new litmus going forward?
I do think that's a really good question. I usually start mine. I mean, I haven't had a bunch of interviews during COVID, but I usually start mine with like, why do you want to work here? And you'd be surprised at the folks that'll tell you, well, I've been looking for a position for a while and I think this would be a good one. Nope.
Mm-hmm.
You cannot answer a question with like, hey, it's a job.
Bingo.
No, show that you've done research.
Well, here's the thing too. You're answering that pre or post COVID, because they're showing you an intangible that would make them that would make them a good employee to you. And what I try to tell the kids now in a virtual environment, will we ever go back up to offices? Will they ever be able to sit in a room with Erin in a live environment, or is it going to have to be a virtual environment? But the standards really never, they don't change, do they? To your point, like I say, bring the virtual heat. Dress nice. You don't have to have a coat and tie on. Who cares about that? But have a nice collared shirt on, have a nice background. And I'm going to tell you, the kiss of damn death, if I see them glance down at their phone, I literally disconnect the interview. I mean, it's showing priorities, right? Right. It's showing the priorities. And so if they are reaching out to you, because like I said, I mean, and I try to explain to them, I've been running Melt for 21 years. And the same type of outreach that I made to you is the same expectation that I have they'll make to me. It's just on a different level, right? I mean, I showed you I wanted to talk to you. I knew a little bit about you. I wanted to make an effort and those types of things. I mean, that's the same principles and standards, right?
Exactly. I also think that you can't rely on the application process because so many people go through the application process for any job. And now guess what? That usually goes to HR. So now I have to go through HR to get to the person I want to talk to. Just take the step and go research it on LinkedIn. Find who that hiring manager is. Do everything you can to prove to them that they need to talk to you.
Well, through this process of, because I mean you're on the complete pulse of a Del Taco customer. How have you seen the consumption habits of an average visitor through there? Are they eating different? Are they eating less? I mean, and the other thing I talk about at these young students is that they are the most sophisticated consumer on the planet. They're digital natives. They're very aware of what they're putting in and out of their bodies. We've represented Coke for 21 years. I mean, Coke's having to shift in their innovation pipeline. Are you seeing that being on the front lines of this as well?
I believe that, I mean, we've done well, right? Del Taco's always done well, but during this, with people like picking up to go, getting delivery, it's one of those foods that can be just about anything. Like our food's made fresh in the restaurant,
right?
Therefore, it's not as bad for you as other QSRs. But at the same time, you're filling a void. It's delicious, right? We crave certain foods. Tacos are one of those craveable foods. When you hear about tacos, you're like, if I start talking to you about tacos, it might not be today, But in some point in the near future, you're
Bingo.
going to have tacos because it's one of those crave foods where you're like, I'd really go for a taco right now. And
Hmm.
the great thing is we don't just have tacos. We have burritos, we have hamburgers and cheeseburgers and things like
Right.
the Del Burger, and all of it is really good. So we've continued to see growth during this time. We also have a value menu that's outstanding. So you can get on our Dell's Dollar menu just about
Hmm.
anything you want to create your own meal. It's just fantastic. And our crinkle cut fries get rave reviews. But since everything gets rave reviews, they probably don't shine the same way all the tacos do.
Right. Well, it's also what you're pointing out is consistency. And, one thing that we talk to our students a lot about is that, no matter what they're doing during college, as long as they're doing something. So I make the example like, hey, if I'm working at Del Taco or I'm working at Starbucks, it's not that I have a job at a quote unquote, quick serve or fast food. It's that I'm on the front lines of consumer behavior, working my way through college. So we talk about in terms of our students how they're positioning their brand to get your attention. Right? I mean, it's not necessarily what, but the fact that they actually put that effort in because. I'm sure you worked your way through school and these types of things, and I did the same. I worked 4 years in sports information, so it's all about the positioning of that brand to get your attention, right?
Yeah. And just to be clear, it's not a job if you're passionate about it. Like
Bingo.
I've always struggled with, and it's probably just me because I'm passionate about the work I do. Folks who tell me like this is a 9 to 5, this is a job,
Oh my God.
and that in the evenings this is when they really go after their passion. And my feeling is your priorities are messed up, and you need to go work in something you're passionate about. Now, the only kind of take backseat I will on that is when I first started out having to take a job that could get me to what I'm passionate about. But that was always the goal. And I was always upfront about it. Is like, I'm not passionate about being a receptionist, even though I really enjoyed it. I'm passionate about theater. And now I'm passionate about digital marketing. And how do I bring all these things to life?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I love that spot on, and we talked about it. Like I said, we led out with passion. We also led out with um, it's okay to be flexible in your college experience. I mean, you had a passion for theater, you had a love for theater, but then when necessity forced you. Or survival forced you, you made that transition. But it's also when you get to college. I mean, I knew I always wanted to be a sports writer, but I stumbled into this the opportunity of sports marketing, and then was able to build a career about it. But it's okay when you get to college to change if something else sort of floats your boat, so to say, and you might get resistance from it from your colleagues, your peers, your sorority sisters, fraternity brothers, your parents, your advisors. But that's okay too, right?
Absolutely. My parents still, I mean, I think they're coming around to it now, but they still didn't understand why I didn't go to college for something different. They didn't understand why I wasn't using that degree, even though I am. And they questioned it kind of along the way, everything I chose to do. Now, looking back in retrospect, they're like, somehow, like my mom will say, like, somehow you became very successful. That's interesting. And I'm like, it's hard work, perseverance, and passion.
Right.
But you can do whatever you want to do. And sometimes in college, you're only hearing one side of it, or you're only hearing one
Bingo.
story. And what I've learned over time is because I do marketing, right? And I've marketed hotels, I've marketed wings, I've marketed burritos, I've marketed retail and
Hmm.
shoes, and I've run the gamut in marketing. And what I found is if I'm really good at marketing, I can market anything. The other
Bingo.
thing that comes along with it too is, okay, I can market anything. Where do I want to work? What drives me? People drive me.
Hmm.
I love working with great people. I love working with people who are collaborative. I don't like working in silos. Okay, I need to find an environment like that. I love positivity. I need to find a positive culture. Those are things that drive me. So I know when I'm looking for that move or that position, that's what I want to be involved for. What we're marketing may or may not make a difference, but what's really important to me is, can I have a passion for it? And do I have a passion for the people?
Yeah, and I mean, we'll use your parents as an illustration. And I talk to the students ad nauseum about that. They'll tell you this is two things. So everybody says, Vince, what business are you in? I say, well, I'm in the rejection business. I get told no, 99 times a day, but that one out of that 100 that hits, then something hits. And secondly, and I wish I had learned this a lot earlier, that even with your parents, you can't really take no or discouragement personal, because you don't know what perspective that person, is coming from. And even though you appear to be successful and I appear to be successful, and we get told no all the time. We've been told no. And I say the letters, no don't spell no. That's the first two letters of not yet, but you just have to keep grinding and move forward, don't you?
That's funny that you just said that, because I always say no never means no. No just means find another way.
Right.
And I truly believe that there are people who've called on me for years that until the right opportunity came along, I wasn't able to call them back, right? And say, let's do business together. There are also theater. I heard no all the time, but no wasn't it wasn't no, like I couldn't do the job. It was no, you're too fat, you're too skinny, you're too tall, you're too short for this role. And so you can't take it personally, because guess what? I can't make myself taller. I can't make myself shorter. I can't make myself fatter or skinnier. I mean, you can over time, but not in the context of, hey, I'm auditioning for this role. I'm just not the right fit. And that's okay. And sometimes those no's, there's a better yes right next door, but it's hard to feel that when you're feeling the no at the time.
Unanswered prayers is what I say. But you just hit on something. We talk about it a lot. Is that you know, you don't, I mean, everything's a function of timing and opportunity, but you still got to continue to be perseverant, because like they reach out to you 99 times. And then that one time where you go, okay, the timing is right. Here's the need state that I have. But you rebuffing them early on had absolutely nothing to do with that person or who they were. You didn't have that need state fulfilled at the time. And again, like I said, I'm in service business. You're in the service business. And that's what we talk to our students a lot, is that, particularly now, and I use a fishing analogy. I used to say it takes 100 casts to get 8 job bites to get 2 real job leads. Now I think it's going to be 500 casts, because there's so many unemployed people that are willing to take a lesser job for a lesser salary. And that's going to further suppress the entry level job market. And so persistence and perseverance is going to be the operative word in this environment now, correct?
Yeah, 100%. It's going to be, you can't give up. I have a couple friends who will tell me stories, and I go, and they're faith-based, and I go, haven't you ever heard the saying, God doesn't work unless you do? Like, get up, let's go.
Right.
So you have to push forward. You have to be part of the reason that makes the change. I do believe that people are their own worst enemy, and your brain can play crazy tricks on you. So it's about self-talk, talking to yourself and making sure you understand your feelings, right? Because you might go, oh, I know it's not personal. But do you? What's the self-talk happening in your brain? And so being able to say to yourself, like, it really isn't personal. This was somebody who I was just not the right fit at this time. Here's what that means.
Mm-hmm. And I always, I think you learn more out of quote unquote failure than you do success. And the only way we define failure around here is the failure not to try. I mean, you're going to get knocked off the saddle. You got to get back on the saddle. Obviously, we're all going through this, crazy tumble cycle, right now. But so before we wrap up this incredible, fascinating conversation, are there, and they don't have to be current, like, are there resources or great books you've read or podcast or, anything that you would like to share? And we always like to say, hey, is there some resource or book or something or podcast that our students should be looking up? Because here's the other thing. If they go look it up and they read it and they reach out to you, they can use these emotional cues to get your attention via a reach out on LinkedIn or email or something like that. That's why we're trying to coach them on these intangibles. So anything you'd like to share?
I'm a big fan of Adam Grant and Brene Brown. There's very little that Brene Brown has done that I haven't somehow consumed, because I think it's just great. I'm a big believer in just self-growth and leadership. Like, if you look at my bookshelf, it's full of growing, books that help you grow, that focus on female empowerment or our help with leadership abilities. And then the one thing that, if you ask me what's the last podcast I listened to, Dax Shepard has a podcast called Armchair Expert, and he had Adam Grant on, and it was phenomenal. I learned, I laughed. It was just great because I'll tell you, for me to sit down and read a very big book is very difficult sometimes.
Right,
so being able
right.
to listen to it in the car has been wonderful.
Yeah, it's amazing how the technology has enabled us to be able to learn and share, more things together. And again, it's part of the silver linings we talk about. During COVID, I say change is inevitable, growth is optional. Choose wisely. I never would have been able to take this program virtual. The tools that allowed me to reach out to you, and the tools that allowed you to respond, and then the tools that allowed us to capture and record your wisdom and share it with thousands of kids. It's just, it's just truly unbelievable. I do want some things back to normal, but some of these silver linings, particularly if you haven't, lost anybody through all of this, has been incredible. And this has been fantastic. First of all, thank you so much for responding to my email and inquiry. Thank you so much for taking the time, knowing that you're crazy busy, and we're here in Atlanta for you when you can get back on an airplane and come down and continue to share your wisdom and work together. But Erin Levzow, VP of Marketing, Digital Technologies, Del Taco, co-president of 414 Digital. Great background in theater from Illinois State, and then moves into the casino and resort business, and then into the food business with our friends at Wingstop Destination as well. So, Erin, we really appreciate your time, and thank you for your words of wisdom for the students of Virtual Melt University today.
Of course. Thank you for having me on. I really appreciate it.
And we look forward to hearing back from you soon. I hope you'll get some positive comments from our listeners, and looking forward to hopefully working together one day.
Great. Thank you.
Thanks, Vince. We hope you've enjoyed today's virtual class. We'll be back soon with a new edition of Melt University 2021.